My guest today is a friend, and he is running for United States Congress in Massachusetts' 6th
That's right.
District. Micah Jones, welcome back to normal.
Thank you, Jeff. And we were talking before the podcast started. Like, we've known each other for a long time, and this is really great to, I've talked to you about my interest in running potentially for a while, and it's awesome to finally get to sit down with you. And now that's official. So really appreciate you having me on.
It is official. We've been talking behind the scenes for quite some time. And the website, first and foremost, I'm putting in a plug, MicahQJones.com. Go to that website, help Micah win. Give him money.
Thank you.
Give him lots of money. He's got a shot at this. And he's dressed in Patriots gear. I'm going to preface this episode. We are recording on Super Bowl Sunday before the game. Go Pats.
Go Pats.
But we don't know what's good. When this airs, we don't know what the outcome will be. And I just bought a $200 Super Bowl square, and I'm like, my eyes got glossy that I might win. I'm like, oh wait, this is one in 100 chance, right?
Well, I have to share if you don't mind. So the last time the Pats and the Seahawks met in the Super Bowl 49,
okay,
I was actually deployed in Afghanistan. So I have a very fond memory of that Super Bowl because one of the other the officers on the team that we were on Camp Resolute Support. So for those people who were deployed, that was in the Kabul area, it was the headquarters, and we were at that base, but it was attached to the embassy. And apologies, I know we're going to get to the campaign issue.
No,
I feel like this is
the
most important thing right here.
Man,
so,
people need to get to know you, and this is part of it. So when you were stationed in Afghanistan,
yeah, so
continue.
I was deployed 2014 to 2015. So I think that was honestly didn't have a lot of time and had a unique deployment. Definitely happy to talk about that. But I think at least when I was checking my phone, that was probably the NFL season I followed the most, just because it was home. In the sense of being deployed. My deployment was almost a year to the day, and so that was the NFL season where it was like, I really felt detachment. I was like, no, this is what I'd be doing if I was back home, and I really appreciated the opportunity to follow it. And so when the Super Bowl happened, we because Camp RS was attached to the U.S. Embassy, and at the time I was working as the military aide to the general in charge of NATO's rule of law mission. We had a few people on our staff, but because of our role, we had embassy access badges, and so our base did not have a good place to view it, but the embassy, they had a pretty baller setup.
Yeah.
And so we
reclining chairs and sofas.
It was pretty nice. So we got up. I remember we were in our PTs, our Army, just regular PT uniform, sweatpants basically. And then we went to the embassy. We got up at whatever the time difference was. I think we got up at
8 hours ahead. Right?
Yeah, we got up at midnight or 1 a.m. and then watched it all night. And I still had to turn around and it was still going to be the next day. It wasn't like we were getting it off.
Yeah.
But I just remember it was we got up in the middle of the night, walked over there and watching in the embassy. And when Malcolm Butler did the interception at the end, it was the entire embassy blew. It was just amazing. And so I have a very fond memory of Super Bowl 49 and hope to see the same victory today.
Yeah, why they threw that pass, I don't know, but I'm happy they did instead of.
I mean, so you still have, so what now? It's been 12 years or 11 years, this Super Bowl 60, but it's you still had Marshawn Lynch, arguably the best running back, certainly at the time. And the fact that they decided to throw the ball, it's still amazing. I still can't believe it. So anyway.
Thank you, Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Well, you brought us. You mentioned something there that I think is worth poking at a little bit. It's so you served. Thank you for your service. And when our men and women are stationed overseas, it's what are they fighting for? What are they there for? Why they want a piece of home? Super Bowl, their teams, whatever the sport is, their teams. They're following them because you even said yourself you followed it a little bit more, and maybe that was because you were outside the country. And there's this, I'd say, what's the right word I'm looking for? There's a pessimistic attitude on some political sides that think that oh, well, America, just Coca-Cola, baseball, and it's well, hang on a second. Yeah. Coca-Cola, baseball, America. It's not cliched. It's actually something that is our culture. It's valuable and it's emblematic of, I think, the greater things that America stands for, which is freedom and liberty and why you served and all of those things. So it's nice to hear when men and women are overseas, they go back to what feels like comfort, feels like home, because it reminds them of it, but it's also an important thing.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think a big part of my campaign, I know we'll get to the topics you want to talk about, but but I mean, I think this is really important. It's something that I'm a millennial. I'm 37, and I'm somebody who really feels that incredibly lucky to have had the experience that I've had, the opportunities I've had, and they truly are opportunities that could have only happened in America. And I am somebody who very much views that America is a force for good in the world. I really believe that, to quote Reagan, we are a shining city on the hill. And I think that's too. I know I've as I highlight on my website, like, I really admired President John F. Kennedy, and in particular, I admired JFK's view of America's role in the world, and also what's possible when it comes to kind of America in both like the military hard power sense, but also soft power. And as recently was speaking with WGBH, and I appreciate the reporter asking me about that. But for me, it's like President Kennedy founded both the Green Berets and the Peace Corps in the same term. And what that means is that he understood both the importance of having American hard power, and the Green Berets truly, in my opinion, are just incredibly capable, especially with their language ability, the ability to really connect and embed with the community, and with limited resources, create a force for liberty. And pushing back against oppressive regimes. But then at the same time, President Kennedy understood the importance of the Peace Corps and the soft power, and the importance that there are so many Americans, I think, in our spirit, we want to do good things. Americans really believe in helping our communities. We really want to volunteer. We really want to give back. Americans, when you look at like statistically compared to other Western nations, we give more to charity than any other developed country.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think it's that spirit, that like the soft power component too is very important. And so I really appreciate like somebody like President Kennedy having that worldview of both, understanding the dynamic. And so for me to bring it back to the to service, it's like I came away from both, from the military more than anything with a sense of gratitude and love for this country, and just an appreciation of everything that we are so lucky to have here, and the opportunities that are available to those two individuals who, it's like, in coming back and being able to apply the kind of post-service benefits, which is something I'd like to talk about in a bit. It's like just a truly humbled and thankful for the opportunity to have served. And I think a big part of my campaign, especially when we're at a moment in time which the country is very fractious, I really want to turn the temperature down. I really want to focus on what is good, like for young people, young Americans, and try to find that sense of service and purpose and love for country, because we really have so much potential. And I'm excited that I hope that this campaign can share a little bit about that.
Excellent. No, I like a lot of what you said. America is a force for good.
It is.
And it didn't happen by accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is it's not a happy accident. It's built into the structure of our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our culture, both written down and lived over the past 250 years. Like it's something that I think a lot of people take for granted.
Yes.
And it's important to remind people of that this is a special place. It's a good place. It's not perfect by any stretch. Yeah. And we shouldn't judge it by perfection, but we should judge it by the progress that's been made, both within our society and across the world.
Yes.
And I think it's important to remind people of that, because I think we're at a point in history, in the recent history, where we're past the unseriousness of it. We've got a lot of things going on in the world, both domestically, internationally, that need to be taken up by serious people.
I hope so. Yeah,
and we're going to touch on some of that stuff today. And one of the things, well, I'll start with this. I'll kick it off. I saw your campaign video this week. It was a great campaign video, and you hit on something that I don't think people are talking about it, but it's bubbling up under the surface. Yeah. And that is the level of corruption going on in our government, and the government, state, local, federal. And you brought up hitting on the Stock Act.
Yep.
Stock Act. Yeah, yep. That's the proposal going forward. And I think it's a valuable, and we'll touch on that more specifically in a second. But I wanna hit on something real quick. This is, I can get my mouse. Where's my mouse? There it is. No, here we are. Okay. This is from a few years ago, but it's just as valid now as it was back then, from 60 Minutes.
And former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her husband had participated in at least 8 IPOs. One of those came in 2008 from Visa, just as a troublesome piece of legislation that would have hurt credit card companies began making its way through the House. Undisturbed by a potential conflict of interest, the Pelosi's purchased 5,000 shares of Visa at the initial price of $44. 2 days later, it was trading at $64. The credit card legislation never made it to the floor of the House.
That is troubling.
Yeah.
And that was brushed aside at the time. And I could remember when Scott Brown, back in 2010, he was in the Senate, he got elected, and he pushed for that with President Obama to outlaw stock trading.
Yep.
or severely limit stock trading by members of Congress. When Elizabeth Warren got in, she helped to remove that. You brought up this is the
and if I could touch on this,
Unusual Whales.
Yeah.
Unusual Whales is a good follow. So this is the performance of members of Congress and their stock trading portfolio just in 2025 alone versus the S&P 500.
Yeah.
Now, talk on this for a second, because this one, I have to laugh. If I'm laughing, it's not because I don't take it seriously. It's because I have to laugh because I get really mad.
Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you, focusing on this. And to me, it's something that, look, we do have, I'm not the first one to say that members of Congress should not trade individual stocks. To me, the fact that it hasn't been passed yet is something that is truly egregious, because I think for me, it's like I see this. You can clearly, for the folks watching at home, and they can see on the screen, it's like it's a bipartisan issue. I mean, it's almost like evenly split between.
Really important. This is a bipartisan. Greed knows no bounds of party on this.
Correct, and this is something that, like, really, when kind of the main issues when I've been thinking, like, that I think where it's highlighted for me is that, so I was a big law attorney. Big law is the phrase used for kind of major international law firms that have offices in different cities throughout the country. And I worked for the firm Morgan Lewis in their Boston office, and I was actually in the securities enforcement litigation practice for 6 years after law school. And so in that role, I was helping case teams represent broker-dealer clients in both kind of dual positions in the sense of representing them, help navigate investigations from the Securities Exchange Commission as well as the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, and also state securities regulators like the Massachusetts Securities Division. And then on the other side of that, I would represent those same broker-dealer clients in generally Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, arbitrations against different investors. And that's like when you sign paperwork, a lot of times people don't realize, like, in many ways you're not going to court, you're going to go to arbitration. And so I was in FINRA arbitrations, and that's a whole other podcast we can talk about. But I think for me, and just being at a big firm, and those listening in who are in that financial industry industry, the fact that is, I was, as an associate, I was prohibited. Both my wife and I were prohibited from trading individual stocks and bonds for the entire time I was at the firm. And so we were only allowed to trade exchange-traded funds and mutual funds. Right. Now, I think there was a process and a policy process where you could ask permission. Like, for example, the meme stock craze, I wasn't allowed to buy GameStop.
Well, but you have to do it well in advance.
Correct.
You can't have any potential information on potential bills reaching the House floor or litigation behind the scenes, or it just rule it all out. They want to make sure you rule it all out.
Correct. Yeah. And it's like, look, there is a serious process, and it's like, if I wanted to trade GameStop, for example, and get on the meme craze, like I would have had to go up the chain at my firm, and it would have been a long process. And it's like, but the transparency would have been there the whole time, and you would have had to justify the trade. The fact that, and that simple fact, and that juxtaposed by the standard that I was held to in the private sector for 6 years, the fact that members of Congress, who, in my opinion, are absolutely privy to insider proprietary information that the general public, general Americans are not, that information is not available to them, is absolutely egregious, and it's something that defeats the entire purpose of public service in and of itself. The last thing I'll say in this is that it's like I'm happy to talk more about why I'm running, but it's like I'm running because I truly love this country. I truly love Massachusetts. I truly love the MA6 congressional district, where my family has decided to raise our family, plant our flag, build our life there. We bought our house there. Our kids were born. in the district at Beverly Hospital. And it's like, I'm fully committed, and it's like, I love this area. I want it to be the best place to raise my 2 young children. And I am entering service because I want to make the country the best place possible. The idea of entering service for personal gain is absolutely anathema to me. And that is something where it's like, I don't care if these members of Congress get rich after the fact, like do your book deal, get on a board, but after your service, it's different. It's different. It's not different. While you're in it. Yeah. So I feel very strongly about it.
When I was consulting in a company a few years ago, and I remember hearing about this, and I was in a group of, for mergers and acquisitions, right? Okay, yeah. And that's a very sensitive area, yes, right? It is. So, and one of the people with the firm that wound up getting arrested for insider trading. Yeah. Because they heard about it, and they did the dumbest thing in the world, and they thought and I'm bringing this up for a very specific reason. They had their spouse purchase the shares. Yeah. I think it was options at the time. But put call options for the acquired company. Yeah. Well, one, you're going to get caught. Two, it was a completely bonehead. It doesn't happen. Oh, well, I didn't do it. My spouse did. No. That's not how this works. Yeah. You can't do that. Yeah. You were privy to inside information. Yeah. And you operated on that. You made, and this. I mean, they should go open a hedge fund because in New York. We're going to
with those returns.
With those returns is insane, and we're going to get we have some other examples of spousal corruption. Yep. I'm just going to call it, I guess that's the new phrase, spousal corruption, right? And that's not having an affair or anything. This is real corruption that they're sort of getting around because their spouse, or themselves in this case, what we have on the screen, these returns that they're making are, anybody else would go to jail. Well, and they're literally immune from this.
Yeah, and I think just for the audience who's listening in, it's like 7% is generally like what kind of the average expectation is. Like obviously there's ups and downs with the market every year. But the idea is like, well, if you put your money into your broker, brokerage firm, you're trading on your phone, whatever it may be, it's like you can anticipate plus or minus 7% returns throughout the year. And that would be like, that's a good year. That's a standard year that's used. It's like the fact that outside returns are like, I mean, again, it's a bipartisan issue. And that's what I really want to hammer on. Like, this is something that I don't understand why Democrats and Republicans cannot come together and focus on and ending this. I mean, it's like, I know why, because they want to keep it going. But right. We need to make it, bring momentum to really push back against it. Yeah. And I feel very strongly about it. But you look, it's like, gentleman at the top pushing 78.8%.
Warren Davidson from Ohio, he's getting plus 70, almost 79%. I love those returns.
Like, can we compare this to Buffett's returns? Yeah, like for that before.
Well, and it goes all over the place as far as it's all over the country. Reps from all over the country. We have Stephen Lynch in there in middle of the pack at about plus 34.8, almost 35% return on his stock portfolio. Yep. So he's down in the Mass 8th, right? Yep. So in Boston. It covers pieces of Boston. I mean, this needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. Yes. But also the other ancillary corruption that we're seeing, it's let me pull this up here. This is there's another I played the clip of Nancy Pelosi. There's actually an app called the Pelosi Tracker. Yeah. Yep. This came up. They took an ad last week. They took an ad out in Times Square, Pelosi Tracker. You can follow if you you'd be up 234% if you had followed her stock trades. Now she's gone and isn't going to pay any penalty for that, but she should have, and she should have at the time.
Yeah, I mean, any sort of pay to play in politics really bothers me. I think it should be. It's not something that to me it cuts against the interests of the American people. And I think as part of this campaign, as we go through to highlight just. It's like we need to bring the conversation back to service to the country, service to the constituents. And for me, again, it's like what is best for the Mass 6 congressional district and what is best, how can we improve the lives of everybody living in the Mass 6 to make it the best place to build a family, start a family, build a business, and make a life here.
Well, it goes back to trust. Yes. If people don't trust their elected representatives to do the basic ethical things, it starts to erode the fabric that we were talking about earlier. Yes, in the podcast that America should stand for the ethical standards, the moral standards that everybody else starts to feel like a sucker because they're playing by the rules. And when I'm playing by the rules, you're playing by the rules, and like the people in power that make the laws aren't.
Yes,
it starts to really just leave a nasty feeling in everybody. That and I say locally. I'm going to bring this up because this is the next aspect of this. This is Ayanna Pressley has been in the news in the past couple of months. This has been going on for a while, but it's starting to bubble up as we talk more and more about the corruption that's taking place in the government. So,
where did you make all this income from the rental property?
Sir, I submit a financial disclosure, just like everybody else. There's nothing to see here. Thank you.
Is it appropriate for members to make so much money when they're in office? Should there be rules there? Financial disclosure reports show that the wealth of Pressley and her husband Conan Harris swelled from $12,000 in 2019 to as much as $8 million. 5 rental properties earn them up to $350,000 annually. Pressley once advocated to suspend rent during the pandemic. She pushed policies for struggling homeowners.
These little to no cost bills help people remain housed.
Pressley's husband is an ex-con who went from serving a decade in jail before they were married for drug trafficking to raking in up to $1 million a year as a business and management consultant.
There are many times where we can see that the spouse is the person who may be bringing in the most income.
Some lawmakers resist
this spousal. So this is an article on this. Boston awards Ayanna Pressley's husband multi-million-dollar development project. Right. So this spousal corruption that we're seeing more and more. I'm going to play this clip about this is from Ilhan Omar out in Minnesota.
Fox News alert: Ilhan Omar under investigation after racking up millions while she was in Congress.
What's the old saying, follow the money? Well, that's precisely what the House Oversight Committee is doing. They are probing squad member Ilhan Omar's skyrocketing family wealth, Jesse, especially in the wake of that $9 billion, some would argue $19 billion, Somali social services fraud scandal that exploded in her district in Minnesota. The Oversight Chair, James Comer, says his team's lawyers are exploring the extraordinary step of subpoenaing Omar's spouse over his curious business practices.
Again, we have more spousal corruption. So this is the workaround. They think that they're getting away with it. And in Ayanna Pressley's case, I could remember years ago, this was his consulting firm was paid by Uber and Lyft when there was a statewide ballot initiative around independent contractors, right? And because the attorney generals all over the country were going after Uber and Lyft for labor practices, and were they really independent contractors? Were they really employees? The distinction, yada yada. They wanted to get legislation through or protect themselves. Uber and Lyft did, and they paid Conan Harris about at least $50,000 to sort of just consult. This is the workaround, and he gets fees that are paid for by government entities, both state and local, to put on whatever consulting services he provides. And now he has $1 million income.
Yeah.
And they're buying property all over the state, rental property all over the city. It's dirty. And we know it, and that's the type of thing where we're seeing this all over the place. We're talking about the Stock Act before. There has to be some moral and ethical standards that we expect our politicians to hold to.
Agreed, and I think it's a step at a time. And so that's where it's like, look, to me, it's I'm not naive. It'd be very hard to pass that, but I want to bring it up. I want to be part of the conversation, and I think that you start at square one with this. And so for me, I look at that it's like, look, as a junior member of Congress, what can I get done? These are the issues that I want to lay out. I'm trying to be practical about that. It's like both as a military officer, as an attorney, it's like you need to always have a plan. It's like can't just be like these scatter approach. It's like these are the issues I want to approach. These are the issues I want to define. This is our problem that I've identified. This is my solution, and how are we going to get this done? And so I think step one is like, let's make this a serious conversation. It's a bipartisan issue, and Republicans and Democrats are guilty of this, and members of Congress need to step up, and I hope that their constituents, wherever their district is across the country, make it clear that this is something that we want to have. And I think just going back, it's like, as I said earlier, it's like I want to turn the temperature down, and I think this is a really good way to start doing that. And that we need to find bipartisan issues that this country can focus on, and that we collectively, as Democrats or Republicans, can find common ground.
I think you're right, and there should be common ground on this. Stock Act would be a no-brainer.
Yes,
and it should. I think at the time, like I said, Scott Brown moved that forward, or a form of it back in the day. And Obama signed it. So it was, so it's,
but it
it
didn't
has
go
potential.
far enough. It didn't go far enough either.
Right,
and
right.
I think there's other things percolating too, and they don't go far enough. It's like, again, the standard that was set at my law firm is the standard that should apply, in my opinion, is these type of standard that should apply at the public service level. And again, no individual stocks for members or their spouses, and they should only be allowed to trade exchange traded funds and mutual funds, meaning that they're not being able to shift how that fund is going. It's they're putting their money in it, and it's going to go up or down like anybody else's money would.
Right. I think to be held to the same standards anybody else would for insider trading is just insane.
Yeah,
just makes sense. All right, let's shift gears a little bit here. You also mentioned in your kickoff video talking about national security. And this is something I don't get to actually talk about too much on this show, so I'm a little excited about this. But I think you're running for federal office.
Sure. Yeah.
We have a large military budget. We have threats all over the world. We have threats domestically. We need serious people, which you are, which I'm glad, that running for office that are dedicated to making sure that we protect the homeland, that we protect our interests internationally, and making sure that the very real threats that exist are handled, and they're handled in a smart way. So tell me what you're most concerned about.
Yeah. So
right now.
Yeah. So I think this is the big reason for me, like why I am so interested in federal office. To be clear, it's a state and local office, state and local government affect our lives on a daily basis. It's like what your property taxes are, like your just state tax, everything like you're living. It's like that's state and local, and I got that experience. I interned in the State House and worked for a state senator when I was in law school as part of the Rappaport fellowship, and so I very much appreciate state and local office. But for me, and especially having served in the U.S. Army, and having served overseas, like national security and foreign policy are very, very much at the forefront of my mind, because it's like it can come back. Like those threats that I faced overseas and that our current men and women deployed in uniform overseas are facing, like they are facing them now, so that hopefully they do never come back to the United States. And we going back to just how lucky we are here. It's like having the Atlantic and the Pacific as basically permanent moats. It's very easy for us to be oblivious to threats outside the United States, but here, especially in Boston, the Boston bombing and obviously 9/11, it's like the threats can come home, and it's something that I think we always need to be vigilant against.
Yeah, government's number one job is to protect the citizens.
Agreed.
Like full stop. Whether it's militarily from foreign threats, domestically from criminals, like job one is safety. Right?
Agreed.
Physical safety from violence. That's like the top tier purpose. That's why thousands of years ago people decided, from warlords into kings, right? That's how they became. It's like they monopolized the violence, right? They agreed to say, okay, well, we'll give you some of our harvest, and you protect us from the people from 100 miles away. This is real basic stuff, and we have to. We have to think about it, be aware of it, and take it seriously. Before the show, you were talking about the AI threat, and I'm in the technology space, so I'm aware of this. I see, everybody has the doomsday predictions about what it'll do here and there, but I wanted to get your take on where AI fits into what your national security policy would be.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate the platform, Jeff, with this. So obviously, AI is affecting our lives in every way. And it's something where I'm kind of a Luddite when it comes to it. I think I'm starting to apply it more, and I very much view it as a tool. And so I think taking that perspective, it's like I'm less worried about the kind of a Skynet type of thing, although who knows, it's more the application of AI in a military capacity. And so what I mean by that is that countries that are going to have more advanced AI systems are going to be able to override potential defenses, like within both the cybersecurity space, but also frontline space. I think like the videos that we see coming out of Ukraine war, which are horrific, but like just the drone capabilities and the ability for controlling other assets at a level that is going to overwhelm U.S. defenses, and that is something that really worries me.
Okay, this is a good segue into something that I didn't think I was going to talk about, but makes sense here, because what concerns me a lot with our federal bureaucracy, and I'm using that word specifically, is the lack of speed and the lack of dynamic shifting that will take in place. And you brought up the Ukraine-Russia war, right? So Russia goes in there with, call it, legacy. Is probably legacy military equipment apparatus, planes, tanks rolling in. Okay, you need to take and seize the territory. But all of a sudden, it starts to shift over as the years have gone by into this drone warfare. And
it's like World War I with drone warfare.
Right. It's like trenches and the drones are flying over, but not these multi-million-dollar drones that we have that are going up 10,000 feet in the sky. I mean, we're talking about
what you're buying off Amazon.
Exactly.
Which is terrifying. And the amount of technology, just to say too, it's like when I was a reconnaissance platoon leader in the 82nd Airborne Division, I got out in 2016, but when basically like 2012, 2013 timeframe when I was actually like on the line with the platoon, like actually doing operations, like we had one drone, like the Raven, and it was like not very sophisticated compared to this, and it was way more expensive, way more expensive and sensitive. And now it's like you can buy them off the shelf, and to me that's incredibly frightening. If the technology gets better, where those, it's like the armaments or anything else that can slip under radar systems that can be very difficult to defend against.
This may be a tough question for you to answer, but you're a smart guy, so I'm going to ask it anyway. I'm concerned that the bureaucracy is slow, and we can't adapt in time to foresee threats like this. And I mean this specifically. It's like, small drones, they can do only a moderate to small amount of damage. Well, if you're in the house, it's not moderate or small. But if if you have 1,000 of them,
correct?
Oh my God,
yes.
And then you think, all right, well, jam their signals because they're on radio or Wi-Fi or something like that. Well, you know what is happening all over the Ukraine? There's this spider webs of fiber optic cables that are being strung all over it because they're you can't jam it.
Right.
It's on a fiber optic cable.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And now, what do we do? Right. And we're still arguing over funding the F-35 fighter or how much this is like, okay, the F-35 is great and I appreciate it, but hold on a second. Yeah. Well, what are we, how would you approach that as a congressman? Cause that's tough. That's a real tough.
And to me so I really appreciate the question. It's very easy for Department of War to fight the last war.
Yes.
And it's very easy it's like, well, we're fighting the previous enemy. It's very hard to think forward of like, well, what are the near peer threats? And I know, to the credit, like I know the military services are trying to do a pivot to countering like a near peer actor as the threat, but it is something that totally agree in that the innovation and how dynamic they can shift priorities is slow. And so I think to answer your question, it's like I would want to prioritize funding to kind of more startup technologies, whether it's like the kind of Palantir equivalent companies, but making sure like that there is a cross partnership between the private sector and the national security apparatus, which there is, but really fomenting it in a way that we're going to be testing more equipment and really trying to get it down to that line infantry level, because I think that's something that listeners, if people are listening in, if they're familiar with the military, it's like you have the top-down technological development, and in the end, it's like the soldier's ruck always weighs the same amount because they're trying to make this technology, and it's like, okay, it's great if you have the plan, you're in the drawing board, and you have the PowerPoint presentation, you go through, and it's like, yes, even if you've identified that future threat, but once it gets down to the line and once it's in the soldier's hands, it's like, well, how is that actually like usable, and are they going to be able to employ it how it's supposed to be used, and then just how much does it weigh is a real thing too. Yeah. So I think.
Does it get clogged in the mud?
Exactly.
Does it if it gets wet, does it break? All that, the basic stuff.
It's real. So I think it's that balance. So I don't think I can give you the exact answer, but it's like, no, I think being in Congress would allow to be in a position to, it's like, we've identified the problem. It is a real problem. And I think the reason that it's like maintaining national security of the United States is the utmost priority. Maintaining our military edge is of the utmost priority, in my opinion, because that keeps America prosperous. Security keeps America prosperous. It allows us to have the trade. It allows us to have the lifestyle that we have here domestically. And if we don't maintain that, I think could be a significant threat.
No, you gave a good answer for I think partnering with the private sector who is aware of this, right? So I mean, if you just look at it from you take a step back and you're like, okay.
But actually, sorry, not to interrupt you, but I think, and not just like the legacy, to be clear, a little bit more refined, like not just like the Northrop Grummins Grummins and the Boeings. It's like thinking like who are those startups in that space who are applying that AI technology, who are applying drone technology, who are thinking multiple orders of effects ahead and aren't an institutional bureaucrocy in and of themselves.
No, I think
I want to clarify that.
No, I was going to mention, I think Palmer Luckey.
Yeah, he's Palantir.
Yeah, I thought it was Andrew. Is that related?
We should check. We should check for the
all right. I'll look at get you. But no, Palmer Luckey's been great on that stuff.
Correct.
I've heard him speak. And I want to say Andrew has an office in Massachusetts. I'm not sure, but regardless, yes, those types of minds, not the Boeing, the Northrop Grumman. We know. Lockheed Martin, yes, they're very important and they will continue to be important. Yeah. But at the same time, we need to branch out and touch on that. So what I'm going to ask you the Mitt Romney question from 2012, if you remember this. You're younger than me, so this is like 13. What do you think is the number one geopolitical threat to the United States? Who do you think is the number one geopolitical threat to the United States?
Hands down, the Communist Chinese Party.
Okay,
hands down. And I think that it's extremely challenging because of our significant level of trade between China and I want to be very clear with the listeners and for however the podcast gets cut or edited. I want to focus on the regime. It's the Chinese, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party is the problem. It's not the Chinese people, but the CCP, especially the legitimate genocide, the actual quantifiable genocide they committed against the Uyghur Muslims is absolutely horrific. What they are doing to their own people, what they have done since Mao's revolution is horrific on so many scales. The amount of millions of people who have died. I very much believe in defending American allies like Taiwan and ensuring that they have the necessary arms and support to push back against the Chinese Communist Party. And the reason I say the CCP is the greatest enemy that the United States has right now is that they are conducting a full court operation, a full court press against the United States at all levels. So yes, there's the hard power concerns, and yes, we're not in a shooting war, and I hope we never are in a shooting war with China. I hope not, and I really do hope that we provide Taiwan with the arms necessary to prevent an invasion from happening of the island. But it's more than that. It's the fact that, and this is something where I do disagree with the administration. On is just how long it took for the TikTok ban to go in effect. TikTok genuinely is like being controlled by the CCP. That algorithm was absolutely trying to undermine I think American youth, and it's like in just trying to basically like pollution. TikTok really was just it's the content there, the algorithm. It's like the TikTok version, I think the most damning, if I can say that, is the difference between the Chinese TikTok and the American TikTok. It's like the Chinese TikTok, it's like your kid's going to be an astronaut.
Yeah, math equations versus garbage.
And so just like that kind of, again, going back to that soft power focus, that is soft power at its strongest form. It's something that I'm very worried about. I think it's like when we talk about overall threats, that like understanding that there are countries or there are regimes like the Chinese Communist Party that they are absolutely trying to undermine the United States, and they're doing it in multiple levels. And
I agree with you. It's China. I think Russia has lost a lot of power, even more so. I think Putin, as soon as Putin goes, it'll be a free-for-all in Russia for a little bit until somebody else takes place, and we'll have to deal with them. But it is China. And what's disturbing most, there's several levels of that I'm disturbed about when we talk about China, because you're right, we have this trade relationship with them.
Yes.
Yet we spend too much money domestically, and we borrow, we're in debt.
Correct.
And a lot of that is consumed by China. So we're somehow like indebted to them. We trade with them. Yet the people who are naive in this country, usually on the left, are.
But I'd say the right too. I mean, both. I think people don't understand different forms of naivete.
Different flavors of naivete. But we have a situation where a lot going against us that we could actively choose to rein our spending in and not have them buy our debt. Okay, that's a good step. The administration is doing more things to bring home domestic manufacturing,
which is very good.
Yeah, like T-shirt manufacturing. Okay, if that stays in China, fine. But chip manufacturing is a different animal.
And this is something that it's like I very much appreciate the tariffs when they come to national security policy and shoring up key domestic industries. I do think that I do think the administration is on the right path with that. But it's like if we can use tariffs to isolate the CCP as much as possible and shore up our alliances as much as possible too in that region, I think that's where we're going to all collectively benefit. It's like the cost will still stay low. We'll still try to start boxing in the CCP as much as possible, but then also rebolster key American industries, and I do support that.
Yeah, I think the Reagan attitude that he took towards the Soviet Union back in the 80s was just like, well, what Teddy Roosevelt speak softly but carry a big stick, where it was just we had this, and we have to do that with the Chinese. It's like, I don't want a shooting war with the Chinese. My God, it would be horrific. It would be horrible. So many people would die. And people on U.S. soil would die.
Correct.
That just is that would happen. So we want to avoid that, but also we got to be prepared to not mess around if it comes to that. And the most likely target would be Taiwan. You mentioned it, so we have to shore that up and be willing to defend it, because with the communist actors in the CCP, they're not going to stop there. This is one thing. This is one lesson we've learned from history, is like they're not going to stop at whatever they stop at, and plus, Taiwan deserves to be free and not be invaded by the Chinese Communist Party.
Right.
But we're not talking about that as much as we need to, maybe in this election. And I appreciate you bringing it up because I agree with you. They are the number one geopolitical threat, and we have to do a whole bunch of things that we can take care of on our side.
Yes.
And bringing that manufacturing home for where it's important, shoring up, not lending money or borrowing money from them as well, and then I think that some of the selective tariff policies, spot on for that. And then we'll wrap up this, I guess, segment. What's something that, like, national security wise, internationally, that people aren't talking as much about? We know about. I mean, we're always talking. China's in the news regularly, and we need to do the things we need to do. But what do you think is something that that's flying under the radar?
Yeah, I think there's a couple that come to mind, but I think. There's very, like, the world is a fractious place, and I think that just as we see, it's like I think the possibility for like a spark to light the tinderbox in an area that you're not planning. So it immediately comes to mind, and that this may not be the best answer, but it's the one that like I thought of immediately when you asked me the question. And it's like Kashmir, between you have India, right, Pakistan. You also can have like Chinese influences there too, but it's like there are parts of the world where I think us daily, I'm highlighting this example because, it's like, again, we are very privileged here in the United States. And I use that word specifically. Like, Americans are very privileged people in the sense of just the day-to-day life that we have. And I'm so thankful we have it. But many of us live in a bubble. We don't understand just how real the outside of the United States can be, outside of the West. And I want to use that specifically. Outside of the West, the world can be a very, very dangerous place. And just how the fact that, like, that there are these like little tinderboxes, there are tinderboxes around the world where a spark could set it off, and it could be a global catastrophe, and none of us are tracking it in any way. And so I think that's the example that came to mind. There are absolutely other ones, but the idea that even everything as we go on and focus on like key main issues, it's like there are conflicts that have been simmering for a long time at a low temperature, but they could boil at any moment.
Yeah. No, well, India and Kashmir, it's like you have two nuclear armed
correct
countries.
Correct. Right next to each other.
And mistakes can be made, and they be bad ones. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. As we wind down here, we can go in a bit here. Give me the top three things. Let's just go top three things you would do for federal policy. We're going to be talking throughout 2026 about affordability, and I've been hammering it home on this show. There's lots we can do within the state, but federally, I haven't gotten too much to talk about federally. What do you think? Give me the top three things we can do to make cost of living more reasonable for the citizens of the Commonwealth and the country at large.
Absolutely. So that's lowering energy costs through energy innovation, and there's a lot of ways to approach that. I'm somebody who very much believes in incentivizing people to whether it's tax breaks or tax breaks or just like credits to adapt a particular policy.
For the audience.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know tax credits versus tax breaks. Let's explain like what. No, I'm serious, because they hear this, and Governor Healy locally, is talking about credits, or oh, you're going to get a tax credit. What's a credit? Well, you have to pay it back. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I think it's like I really believe in like the break, and that it's like if you do for example, we're talking about energy, but I don't want to get like caught in this or just focused on this one particular thing, but it's like the fact that it's like, okay, if you applied solar panels to your house, it's like you actually like would reduce your overall like state tax burden. But we're talking federal. It's like I would like to see at the federal level, if you engage in a particular activity, it's like your overall tax burden is lower rather than for that particular year, then you would just be needing to pay more into it.
Yeah.
So for me, the energy independence, when I focus on that as the main way to bring down costs, I'm somebody who very much believes in nuclear energy and trying to focus on it in a way that is making sure that it is safe, making sure that it's properly regulated, but also breaking down and focusing on the deregulatory side of that, on how are we able to build it in an efficient capacity.
This is huge. We have to fast track nuclear. All over the country, to bring the overall cost down. I mean, the modular nuclear plants that now, like smaller, they leave a smaller footprint than they did, 40, 50, 60 years ago when it was first coming online. This is critical. Like, I mean, obviously it's nuclear, so you need to still be careful.
Very safe. Of course, we don't want 3 Mile Island. No. We don't want Fukushima, but I think there are ways to do it safely. And it's also allowing the conversation to happen. And I think a lot of this is that it's like just the ability to have the conversation about nuclear energy is something that there's already friction with that. And so being part of the creativity and part of the ability to innovate is to allow the conversation to take place, find out how we can find compromise with that, and do it in a way that is going to use the technology in a safe, efficient manner.
I think that there is an audience on the left.
Yes.
I think that can be reached out to. And Oliver Stone, who is, very far left on a lot of his positions, he's even made movies about this. I think there is a real opportunity where someone like yourself, you're in Congress, sane, smart, willing to come to the table and get folks who are like, look, nuclear power, no carbon emissions.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's go, folks. We can do this. You want to accomplish your goals. Let's get serious about it. This is I think where there's a dividing line between the folks on the left who are serious about it and want to accomplish the climate goals, and those who just want to end capitalism. Right. Is when you put them to, nuclear power, let's go. And then if they pause and they're like, no, well, we want to force changes in behavior of people. It's like, well, okay, then I can't take you very seriously, because the serious answer is nuclear power.
Yes.
No carbon emissions, huge output. We're moving more and more to electric cars. Where our data centers are drawing more and more power. We have to solve this.
And that ties back into our conversation we had about AI. I don't think people realize it's like, I was joking with my wife. It's like, all right, because I'm a Luddite when it comes to AI, but it's like, don't say please or thank you. Like that the amount that it costs, like both energy and like time and technology wise, when you say please or thank you to like ChatGPT or Grok, you shouldn't do it.
But time out. Look, when Skynet does take over, they're going to spare you. They're going to spare you because you said, "Well, look, we're not going to annihilate Micah or Jeff. We're going to be because they were nice enough to say please."
Okay, so maybe take that back. But I think it goes back to that it's like we need, for how much our society craves energy. It's like you think about like everything we have plugged in, our phones all the time, computers. It's like the cars, the houses. It's like bringing down energy costs brings down the cost for everything, and I use that broadly. And that especially in a state like Massachusetts, in which the vast majority of goods are, it's like Massachusetts is an importing state. In that it's like our groceries are imported, and so like with energy, it's like the cost of refrigeration, especially if it's coming all the way from California or another part of the country, from Florida. You're going to have groceries. It's like that is a cost that's implied within that. It's the ability to heat and heat your homes, And how we can lower that is going to, I mean, everybody listening to the podcast, the energy bills have been absolutely out of control recently. And I know that's an issue at the state level, but federally, I think it's like, how can we bring it down?
But let's talk about that, because it's when you think about things intelligently and not just reactively as a policy perspective, it was 4 degrees this morning. So we're heating our house with natural gas. Okay. Well, we're also firing electric power plants with natural gas.
Right.
So it's an either or situation. So if you can lower the cost of electricity provided and you're not burning the natural gas, naturally the supply and demand, the demand will go down for the natural gas. Your bill will be lower for natural gas if you're not burning it to make electricity and you have the nuclear power plant. So it's an all-encompassing strategic way of looking at it, that we can go beyond just the normal talking points that we hear said every day.
So that was that first one. You asked me for the top 3.
Yeah, top 3. Let's go. Let's go. We got a couple more minutes, but let's go for 2 more.
So the other 2 are, I very much would, again, the tax policy I feel strongly about, but I think I would love to see a federal write-off for individual working families, for families. I think one of the biggest costs, and I feel this directly as a young father, and we have 2 young kids, are childcare costs, particularly in states like Massachusetts. And I think especially because the future of the country is the future of our families, and I really believe that we want families to grow and prosper. A way to do that would be that childcare costs for children.
Just fully written off.
I think that would be ideal. It's again, it's compromise. It's about the discussion, but I would like to see a significant tax reduction at the federal level for families who are paying into child care costs, and whether that, and we can, again, this is about starting the conversation, and then it's about having a conversation which we're going to find compromise that works for the broadest amount of people. But I very much believe that if you could, that would allow working families to have a significant write-off from their taxes, and would then allow them to spend on their communities and put it back into the community where they're raising their children. Yeah. I very much believe in that. And the third one, and this is going to be a little bit more tangential, but I'm somebody who this kind of ties it in together with my very much belief in public service. And specifically, I would really like to see the expansion of the GI Bill type benefits for post-service opportunities outside of the military. So I'm somebody who very much loves and believes in service in the United States military, but I am also the first to acknowledge that service in the military is not for everybody. And so I would really like to see, and there are some programs, but it's not at the same level, in the sense that, like, I used the GI Bill and Yellow Ribbon program to attend Northeastern Law School, and incredibly thankful for the opportunities, the post-service benefits through the VA, but like the GI Bill have allowed me to have, and especially as I pivoted my career from being a soldier to an attorney. I would like to see those same types of post-service benefits for whether it's the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, Teach for America, City Year, et cetera, expanded so that you're incentivizing public service. And again, I'm not somebody who believes in just like blanket, it's like blanket loan forgiveness. I do believe in the encouraging young people to serve, because when they serve in a public service capacity, whatever it may be, you're coming connected to your community. You understand your country. You understand what it's like to interact with people who may have a different perspective than you. And then you come out of that service with the potential ability to then pivot your career, whether it's a trade or profession. And I think that would not only create a greater love for country for young people, but it would also allow people to really be able to chart their path forward in a way that's going to allow them to end up at the career they eventually want. Finally, and I know we don't have time to discuss this.
We have all the time you want. Go for it.
I've always really believed in the Civilian Conservation Corps, which for those listening in, I'm sure most people have heard of it, the CCC, but that was founded under President Roosevelt during the Great Depression. And I think I would love to see bringing back the Civilian Conservation Corps, because that was really focused on like interior projects within the country. So for many people, if you've been to national parks around the country, if you're kind of going up some stone steps, more likely than not, those steps were built by the CCC. And I think especially now where we're in a critical moment in which we really are, there is a dearth of key trades, skilled trades, the CCC would be a fantastic way for young Americans, especially whether they either post-college, basically before they enter the workforce. It's like you graduate high school, You can go in the CCC, and then you're going to have tangible experience, either a trade or some sort of other kind of just ability that you could then leverage into going to trade school afterwards, again, using those expanded expanded GI Bill type benefits, or then go to a profession, and then you come out and you're able to enter the workforce at a very sophisticated, skilled level. And I think that would help the country significantly. So obviously, a lot to break down there, discuss there, but like that's the kind of creative thinking I want to bring to Congress. That's the kind of that's the kind of congressman I want to be in, representing the Mass 6 congressional district, is always being willing to work across the aisle, always focusing on what's best for the district, what's best for Massachusetts, and what's best for the country, and really trying to prioritize the generation that's coming up, because they are our future.
The website is MicahQJones.com. He is Micah Jones. He's running for Congress in the Massachusetts 6th Congressional District. He is somebody you should be volunteering for and donating to a lot of money. Go donate a lot of money. To go to MicahQJones.com, as his campaign manager is nodding on. Yes, go donate a lot of money so Micah can win this race, because it is a winnable race. Seth Moulton has decided he doesn't want to run for president. Now he wants to run for Senate against Ed Markey. So it is an open seat.
It is an open seat. And
it is a huge primary on the Democrat side, and we don't know who's going to emerge from that one. So I have my theories that I've told you about offline, but we'll hopefully it'll be a good candidate that will match up well. It's going to be a good year for us.
I think so.
Look, I'm glad people like you are running. We need serious people to run at the federal level, and you're bringing that seriousness to the job, and I appreciate that. Go to MicahQJones.com for more information about his campaign and to contribute. And I'm going to say this. For this show, the Massachusetts Republican Party needs help to get people like Micah and up and down the slate of candidates that we'll have in November. Go to the link on the screen and contribute today. I'm serious. We need the money. Scan the QR code. Donate, donate, donate. Just if you can give some money to Micah, give some money to the Republican Party. If you're going to complain about the Republican Party not doing anything, well, here's your opportunity to make a change for that, and go to the link on the screen and scan the QR code. So I will clear that, and I will simply say, Micah, thank you for joining Back to Normal.
Thank you, Jeff.
I wish you the best of luck, and
go Pats.
Go Pats. When you're viewing this, we'll know either way.
Yeah, we don't know at this time. Go Pats.
But I appreciate everybody's time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jeff.